Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's gonna be a bit more banter about Warriors of the Dark Gods army lists this time, with different options that I'm gonna look into. So for the upcoming year, I am trying to focus on Warriors of the Dark Gods as an army to get to the ETC. And yeah, there's a couple of thoughts running my mind. This is the army that I will be playing actually this weekend at the practice day in the Netherlands. So it's with a Chosen Lord with Duskforge, Demonic Wings, Burning Portent. That's basically his main shtick. Then I have a Sorcerer, Wizard Master, and Alchemy with the Apprentice and Occultism. And then basically the core of the list is the Warrior block and the 3x6 Warrior Knights. With some variation around. In this case, I have some Valdrak, some Forsworn that I wanted to test. These guys with Domination I really want to test. Some Warrior Giants because they're basically just good value, and a Wretched one just to round out the list. This is one of the setups that I wanted to try. So let's just go back to how this started for me. So basically, I'm just gonna make a new list. Test. I don't know what. So what I want in my warriors, what I've seen work is these multiple units of warrior knights with basically now in terms of favors you can choose different ones, and I find that this basically already defines what kind of list you're going to go for. There's some advice or small things that I would advise to do. So warrior knights, you can run 5, you can also run 6, so that if your champion dies, then you can make use of that very useful rerollable break test, because then against flying monsters and stuff you will be steadfast. And then to really ensure that you will stick around, you can obviously take Pride to get minimized discipline. Because then you get to the point where if you lose a combat by like 3, then you will reroll minimize discipline 6, which means that you're quite likely to stick around actually. Warrior Knights, some other options. I'll just go through the different options and tell you what I think. First of all, you have the choice between the Great Weapon and the Lance, and this mostly comes from the favor that you are going to pick, I find. You can also obviously go for no option at all. This could still be worth it if you take Gluttony, because then you get +1 strength until the end of the game. However, you're going to stick around with AP1, which is not that great, which would mean that you would need some other choices in your army to help with AP. Alternatively, you can take either to help you with AP. If you go for Gluttony though, then you can keep them quite cheap maybe. So here with Gluttony it's 4 points per model, it's not that expensive. But then again, the great weapons are 1 point. Obviously, you will lose the 1 of armor save in combat. You'll go to a 2-up. Then you have Sloth. So Sloth gives the opponent -1 to wound. I'll talk a bit about this later because I think it's quite interesting and it needs a bit more time. You have Envy, which gives you maximized charge, pursuit, and overrun distance. So basically, you want to get in combat as fast as possible. Envy, to me, it makes sense to run them with lances as well then, because you are going to focus on getting the charge. You're going to make your life a bit more complicated because you are going to be quite charge dependent, so maybe you even want to get a banner of speed, and then suddenly your 6 warrior knights already cost 450 points. Without the banner it's 400 points, which I already find quite expensive, to be honest. So yeah, quite limiting. You can run Greed. Greed gives you bad weapons, halberd, great weapon, lance. Well, the lance you don't get from Greed, so you would still have to buy a lance with Greed, which I think is the main downfall of Greed for warrior knights. Sure, you do get bad weapons, halberd, and great weapon, but on the charge you will be using, I guess, halberds. But I don't think there's a good option for the charge for warrior knights if you take Greed, and then I think it's too expensive. Then you have Lust. Lust gains you faint flight, and you can flee. It can be useful. I would say that it's mostly geared towards a Helmor play and geared towards getting your entire list with Lust maybe. Then you're gonna be playing a very different game compared to other warrior games. And you don't get any combat bonus with Lust compared to the others. Same with Envy, basically, and with Pride. But then in Pride, you really focus on sticking around, which I think has a merit of its own. Then you have Wrath. Lightning reflexes in the first round of combat, so it pairs quite well with great weapons. Because, well, you're going to strike at your own agility instead of striking last. Then again, I don't really get why you would go for Wrath and a great weapon if you can just take the mundane with a lance and then maybe even without a champion. Because second round of combat, I mean, if you're going to spend a lot of points, you're gonna spend 9 points to go to Wrath. You will have a 2-up armor save instead of a 1-up. You can just go vanilla for less points in the end for your unit. It's like an 18-point difference, so it's not even that much, but you will stick to your 1-up armor save, and I think that has quite some advantage. Now for Sloth, so when I read Sloth the first time, I was like, oh, attacks -1 to wound, cool, and you can lose it. It's a bit more detailed. If you look at it a bit more detailed, then it becomes, in my opinion, way better. Because attacks suffer -1 to wound. What does this mean? So if your opponent has strength 7 or higher, you also suffer the -1 to wound. So you will wound on a 3+ instead of a 2+ that you normally would. So any artillery weapon with strength 7 or higher will wound you on a 3+ instead. Any great weapon dudes that come in still wound you on a 3+. Also, alchemy magic. Alchemy magic gains a -1 to wound. So you look at your armor, you would normally wound on a 2+, it's going to be a 3+. So I think that is quite a major boon to the unit. And then the other part, I was understanding that if you charge them, basically you have 2 melee phases where you don't count the extra bonus that you get. But it's only lost until the start of the melee phase and the next player turn. So for your opponent, if I am the Warriors of the Dark Gods player, I march up with my knights in front of my opponent charges, I will have my -1 to wound bonus. And it's an upgrade that only triggers basically if you are being struck. So in that sense, it's not like it's an advantage to then take your great weapons, but it kind of negates the downsides of your great weapons and just being more sturdy. And then if you have this setup with 368 points, if you compare it to just vanilla knights with a lance, it's not even that much more expensive. So I think this is quite a nice option. So going from that, I thought that 3 of these units are quite nice. A teammate of mine also played this last year and he was quite happy about it. We also talked quite a lot about the list together. I also used to play Warriors when he was optimizing the list, and then he was playing a very MSU style with only just some magic support and just some units. I thought it was a bit too much MSU, so I think he was playing the 3x10 Warriors with Lust, which was popular back then, because it was 300 points, and then you can do that to nicely fill out your core and whatever. But so basically, he in the end played 30 Warriors, I think, 30 Warriors with a Relentless Company banner. And then oh dear, 30 Warriors could also be interesting actually. Then he added some Barbarians, I believe. Maybe also some Warhounds, can't come from core, right? So if you have 2 units Barbarians, you go quite wildly over your core restriction. You have 280 points left, so you can also go for 10 Warriors. You only have 180 left, I'm lying. So you can go for a unit of Fallen, you can also go for a unit of Barbarians. Fallen start out with 5 models for 145. If you want 10, then it's like a lot of points basically for what you get, I think. So then I would add barbarians, because basically this unit is just going to be an extra unit. It's going to be my mage bunker most likely. Musician is nice. Throwing weapons are nice if you have a musician. I have 20 points left. Yeah, I can put full command on the unit. I did put a relentless banner here, so I don't want to favor because I don't think they're really that good on warriors compared to having 30 of them. So then we'll just chuck on a banner and a champion. I could put an Aether icon on instead of the champion, but this is also fine. I think could also take great weapons. 15 times 4, 60 points for a unit of 15 barbarians. Could also take shields. So yeah, we'll take paired weapons because I don't use the slot for shields anyway. So then paired weapons are just plain better. I could also take extra barbarians actually instead of the standard and the champion, but then I would have to take 4. I can look into whether I want more barbarians or whether I want the command upgrade. That's not really important right now. So this would be the basic setup of the list. At this point, I would say that I also want to include a wizard adept with alchemy, or at least a wizard apprentice with the Book of Arcane Mastery, so that I can select Word of Iron. If I get a wizard apprentice on alchemy, I will always be stuck to Quicksilver Lash, so I'm going to go for a wizard adept. It could also still become a wizard master. And yeah, the other thing that I have seen working for my teammate is to take the burning important Demonic Wings Lord, which is going to be this build. So Demonic Wings with Greed. Greed you're going to need to enable you to get sufficient equipment here. So he's going to be the general. Burning Important is expensive. You're going to get Flaming Attacks, multiple wounds, D3, armor penetration 10. Flaming Attacks couples quite well with Alchemy Magic because then you get to reroll to wound. And then the Demonic Wings means that you can go into the unit of warriors, you can fly out and go wreck stuff. The ideal, well, in theory, ideal situation for him would be to get Dusk Forged and Thrice Forged. That's a lot of forged. But then you're at 245 out of 250 points. So what do you get for this? We can just look at the overview. So we get a Chosen Lord with a spiked shield. So every hit that my opponent does, and I save on a 4 or better, it's going to be a hit back at strength 5. He gets to reroll his armor save. He has a Hellforged armor 4+, with Thrice Forged. It's going to be a 1+. The shield still doesn't matter there. Still a 1+. So a 1+ rerollable with spiked shield. And then he has a hand weapon with Burning Portent and Demonic Wings. So running this guy also means that, well, you're going to want to run him in a unit. You're going to want to run him in a unit that's either unmarked or that has the greed favor. I don't like greed in general within 9H. I think I forgot his trophy rack, because that is still a nice thing to have, because I mean it's a 600 point character. You don't want to get a field charge or get a charge in and then not be able to reroll your redirect charge. Yeah, so this is going to be the start of the list. I would consider making the warriors smaller to fit in the second unit of barbarians. I would consider at this point to upgrade the wizard adept to a wizard master, just because then you trigger more often the Burning Portent reroll. Because otherwise you're gonna cast some other magic and then likely you will lose out. You could also give this guy, Sorcerer, the Book of Arcane Mastery to get 3 spells, but then it's a lot of alchemy spells from a very narrow selection. So I would, if we're really gonna go for this guy, I think I would prefer a Wizard Master there. Now you can go several directions with this. So we are at more or less 3,000 points. We have 1,500 points left to spare. Basically, the question is, what am I missing? So for the Warrior Knights and Warriors, I think one thing that I am gonna end up taking is gonna be a Rod of Battle, because everything in the army benefits from a Rod of Battle, and it's a cheap spell to get. Maybe also a Binding Scroll. I would like to get in a Binding Scroll because Binding Scrolls can just change matchups. And otherwise, what am I good at? What am I not good at? So I have a gigantic block of warriors that are going to benefit quite nicely also from the alchemy magic, with Word of Iron giving them +2 armor, getting them to a 1-up armor save. White Knights as well going to a 1-up armor save, being quite happy. One of these actually can get the Wasteland Torch, because we're anyway making use of our flaming attacks. So flaming attacks here. I get flaming attacks in the first round of combat. It's not really that necessary, maybe, because I'm at strength 6 anyway with the knight. So the reroll to wound that you get from the alchemy attribute might not be that necessary. On the other hand, there's going to be sufficient stuff for at least one unit to target. So I can play this unit then in front of the unit that I want to target or aim for with my strength 6 reroll to wound attacks. So yes, 3,000 points. We are able to go in different directions now. So we are 1,000 points into characters. We have some room there. We have no legendary beasts yet. So basically there's like 4 options, I think. First option is the Helmor. If you take a Helmor, then your entire list is going to follow the fact that you took a Helmor. So far this is quite doable, because you have a big block of warriors that, like, the Helmar benefits from you also having a variation of different choices of stuff that you can teleport. Big block of warriors is quite attractive in some matchups to teleport. Warrior Knights are quite attractive to teleport, but the only thing that I currently don't like about the Helmar, I don't know why it's being a bit weird with where the rules are. Doesn't really help to scroll, I believe. So I can maybe click on the Helmar again. No, Fearless. Gateway. No, this is the right one. So whenever you have a Helmar on the table, this part is important. At the start of each friendly magic phase, if the model is not engaged in combat, you may apply one of the following effects. You can either remove a marker to make people suffer toxic hits. Oh wait, either you mark a single point to make a new gateway, and you can also remove a friendly gateway marker. If you do that, then you get toxic hits on the model, or you can target a single unit within 6 inches of the model without gigantic models, and then you can teleport it to one of the gateway markers. That is quite interesting. That is basically what the Helmar does. So the thing there is that it used to be, I used to play the Helmar with the restriction that you had to advance onto the marker to teleport, and that you could teleport from markers to markers. So I'm a bit getting used to the new Helmar. But a 12-inch march rate means that you can still march with the Helmar to the place where you want to teleport someone at the start of the magic phase, and then teleport that unit. So basically you have an 18-inch range from the Helmar to a unit, and that you can teleport. He is going to run around in your backlines, therefore, which is not a bad thing, but you have to make sure that you have your backlines rather free. We have a couple of different units now. So we have one unit that is just basically very sturdy. We have 2 anti-armor units. The best unit to pair up with Helmar in this case is Wretched Ones. So Wretched Ones changed from the fact that they could not be teleported to being able to be teleported, because they can be within 6 inches of the Helmar at the start of the magic phase, and they're not gigantic. So Wretched Ones are ideal to teleport with a Helmar, and also they complement the list quite nicely with their attacks. Now, at what point are we now? We are at 3,800 points. Wretched ones also benefit quite nicely from alchemy magic, being able to get the flaming attacks, I believe. But then if you play the wretched ones, I think, well, Rod of Battle doesn't really synergize. So you probably want the navigation mage in addition. So you get a sorcerer path navigation because of spectral blades. So you want the wizard adept, or you want the book of arcane mastery, but then you get also reroll to hit, which is not that good. It's okay, but so we're gonna get a navigation mage, mostly for Whispers of the Veil and Spectral Blades to help out the wretched ones. And then we have 400 points left. Ideally, you want some stuff that you can also teleport with the Helmor. So I believe in this case I would round it out with 2 warrior chariots. Because basically they're quite solid with resilience 5, 3 of armor save, advance 8, 220 points each, which is not a lot. So the only thing you're now missing is something to take care of chaff. But basically you have your combat units in the warriors and the wretched ones, and the combined charges of the rest of the list. You have your anti-monster tool, you have decent magic, and you have Helmor. So the Helmor, it's an interesting piece because not all players know how to respond to it. I don't know if everybody knows that you can teleport wretched ones now. So this would definitely be an option for sure. We'll just leave it at that for now and then look at some other options. So if we don't go for the Helmor, we go back to the basis of the list that we had. So I was saying that there's 3 options basically. So option number 2 is to round out everything with more MSU choices. And then it doesn't matter if it's gigantic or not. Having some gigantic stuff is always nice in your army because they cause terror, and then some armies are less immune to terror. And yeah, this list can benefit also quite nicely from single models and then just the mobility. So the Warrior Knights, they still have March 14, so you are able to basically rush at your opponent, turning it a bit into a rush list. So then your wizard's going to stay back with the barbarians, chosen lord and the warriors. They move 15 inches at the first turn. Warrior Knights can move 14 inches. Basically, you can gear the army to just rush up and try to kill everything as fast as possible. You have a couple of options there. So in characters, you could add an Exalted Herald. I think they generally are better in pairs, and we also want to make sure of our alchemy or use of our alchemy magic. So I don't really value the Exalted Herald in this list because I don't want to run into the situation where I have to choose between the magic of my herald basically and the alchemy buffs that will supplement my chosen lord in this setup. Can go for Feldrock Ancestor. It's a cool guy, but I don't know if it's then not just better to get a Feldrock Elder. I don't have enough experience with Feldrock Elders and Feldrock Ancestors. So the Ancestor has 8 wounds, the Elder has 6 wounds. 8 wounds is a lot. So I think I would prefer the Ancestor. Can you take 2 of them in this? I go way over points if I do. So I would take an Ancestor, I think, just because the Elder might get shot down with 6 HP is doable, 8 HP is not doable, for a lot of opponents at least. So you could go for an Ancestor. I don't like basically gigantic models that are 500 points or more, which kind of contradicts that I don't really want the small Feldrock Elder. But the Ancestor, I don't want them because it changes your matchups, like the pairings. If I now see a cannon on the other side of the table, it's going to be a priority for me to get rid of the cannon. I don't want that. So we're not gonna go for the Herald, not for the Ancestor. Other gigantic stuff. I think still that a Sorcerer on a Wasteland Behemoth is quite interesting. Well, basically you pay the same as a Feldrug Elder, right? So Feldrug Elder, 5 attacks, offensive 5, strength 6 with a weapon option. Wasteland Behemoth, 6 attacks, offensive 3, strength 6. And resilience wise, it has 7 wounds, defense 3, resilience 6, armor 4. So basically it's the same as the Feldrug Elder, except it has a hit point more and defense 2 less. So I would say that they're pretty similar. Also because I haven't really played around with a Feldrug Elder. So I would say that they are pretty similar. And then you get a spell extra, with magic being quite good on a Wasteland Behemoth, I think. So you can go for Occultism, and then you just make it an Adept, because you can get Pentagram of Pain, for example, which I think is a really undervalued spell. Breath of Corruption is really good as well. So this would actually not be that bad, because you supplement your Alchemy Wizard Adept. I think I'm just gonna get rid of this Rod of Battle, because I don't really see it working that well. And then we'll just bump him to a Master. So now we have one beast, basically, yeah, quite independent, can work quite nicely. You can add, I would just add more giants in this case. Giant Club is always a good option, +1 strength, +1 AP. Tribal War Spear is also quite good. Like you do get the +1 strength, and you do get the multiple wounds. So yeah, that I think. So for giants, I used to not take Big Brother. I think by now that it makes quite a difference, mostly against infantry. And the hit point set to 8 is also sometimes just a really big difference. So I think that's worth it. So I'll just take 2 giant clubs, 1 war spear. Is this still allowed? Just over budget. So we are over budget with this. What would I remove? 100 points too high. Do we want to bump them back? I think I do. So then we go just back to Wizard Adept. Word of Iron is also good on the Behemoth. Hand of Glory is also good on the Giants, actually. So I can also give this guy Book of Arcane Mastery. So he won't be able to cast our Hereditary, but I don't really care that much. Then I'm 10 points over. 10 points over. Yeah, then you just remove a musician somewhere, or the Wasp here, or anything. But then you have triple Marauding Giant. Is that good enough? Nah. They have resilience 5. They can march up with Warrior Knights. I think it's quite decent. Like at 350 points, 15 points, they are still quite disposable. It doesn't really matter if you lose them. Funnily enough, they would benefit from the Rod of Battle, or from Evocation Magic. So I don't know if they pair that well with Alchemy, but I don't think so. So you could also play 2 Feldrug Elders. Or alternatively, you say, well, I don't really want to go for the Behemoth, because he turns out to be quite expensive, actually, at 600 points. So then we go back to the Wizard Alchemy, basically back to where we were with the basic setup. So option 3, MSU type. So then you're not going to go for gigantic stuff, but then Feldrugs are also still in the same ballpark, basically, of mobility of your knights. You could also play a unit of Chosen, or Chosen Knights, or this is Warriors, right? You can play anything, really. But if you want to be able to put pressure right away, then Feldrugs are nice, like 400 points for 12 attack, strength 5 with a stomp. Not too shabby. I prefer them over Chosen Knights. Chosen Knights haven't really convinced me so far. I think it's mostly because I don't play against elves myself that much, because I think it's mostly the agility that makes a difference. So the Feldraks, they have a hit point more, they have less armor, but they are unburned, so flaming attacks have to reroll 2 wound against them. And Chosen Knights have a 1 of armor, or 2 of armor, 1 of armor, 2 of armor. They have a bit more damage output from a single rider, or a single model. Yeah, the thing with Chosen Knights is that I also play against alchemy from time to time, and then just seeing one Chosen Knight disappear to 1 Quicksilver Lash is just horrendous, I find. So, with the Warrior Knights being geared towards Sloth, I don't really think Chosen Knights are the right answer there. But then the Feldraks with the paired weapons, I like them because they complement the Warrior Knights quite nicely, in the sense that they ignore parry, they have a lot of attacks, they still stomp infantry. So then the Warrior Knights are more the anti-large tool, and the Feldraks are more the anti-infantry tool. What else would I put in here? Well, basically you're just gonna fill up the list with cheap, hard-hitting stuff. So back go the Warrior Chariots. How many can I have? Apparently, well, you can have 4 of them. So you can also do this. Then you have 200 something points left. You cannot do 5 right now. So in this case, you mostly have 1 big brick. You have a lot of chariots. You have a lot of warrior knights. Unit of Feldraks. This is quite nice. I would add in this case, I think, just a small unit of Chosen with Pride, because it still fits quite nicely. We have very limited magic, by the way, so maybe not these Chosen. I think these 5, they do bring something else to the list. Alternatively, you can also get Forsworn with Damnation. 3 Forsworn with Damnation. That is also quite interesting, I would say. But then in this case, we still have to work on our magic, basically, because we just ignored it. Which is also a tactic, like Word of Iron, 3, 4 dice, and then Glory of Gold, probably, or the Hereditary. Probably you want 3 spells then. So I think I would just put a Book of Arcane Mastery on the guy. Because then you have Silver Spike. Like, your magic is not that bad in this case. Like, you have Silver Spike, Glory of Gold, Word of Iron, Quicksilver Lash, and you can get 3 out of 4. That is quite an effective magic phase for 340 points. Yeah, this is also one to keep in mind, basically. 4,499 points, let's go. Yeah, so the 3 Forsworn with Damnation, they provide an anvil in the list that you otherwise only have in the shape of the warriors. This could also work, actually. I'll just keep this list, duplicate. Then we can go back to the start. So basically, So this is what we started with. Today I was also looking at a Chosen Lord. I was just looking at the Sky Wheel, just to see what it would give you. Because, well, last year I played Dread Elves. And with the Dread Elves, I played a character that was 460 points or something. With the Ring of the Obsidian Thrones and a 1 of rerollable armor save. That was neat. That was really neat, because you have a model that you can still lose. He wasn't my general, so I didn't really care if I lost him. Around the 400 points price point. With high mobility, so Sky Wheel gives you 18-inch fly, 6-inch advance. So the advance is not great, but yeah, you just want to charge, so that's the only downside. Um, but then yeah, this 450 points ballpark points character. It's the same price as a Feldrock Elder, um, but people don't really expect you to sacrifice it. In the sense that I would just put it in front of something to just tank a charge and see what my opponent would do. And people are not really prepared for that generally, I've found. So that's a good option, I would say. Um, then on the Chosen Lord on a Sky Wheel, you have Resilience 5, you have a 4 up armor, you have a 4 up Aegis. So basically you have the defensive stats of an Exalted Herald, whilst you're costing 450 points more or less instead of 780. Obviously you're not a wizard, you have 2 hit points less. So you have 3 hit points, Resilience 5 with a 4 up, 4 up. I would include the Weird Stone, because you have hard target 1, so that helps. You are standard size, I believe. You're a construct, but you are tall, so you cannot be stomped, which is also definitely an advantage. You can still add a Dragon Staff for 18-inch advance and then like a 6-inch breath weapon. I think breath weapons are generally 6-inch. Don't know if the Dragon Staff generally is worth it or not, but something like Sylvan Elves is gonna cry a bit louder. And then I was looking at this. 480 points. Just a bit more clear maybe. So you have a Chosen Lord on a Sky Wheel with a shield, Hellforged armor, paired weapon, Symbol of Slaughter, Dragon Staff with Lust or whatever favor you like. And then I was thinking, well, basically, I haven't given him a gift yet, so if you still have the Demonic Wings available, 55 points, then it probably is better, because then you get to keep your armor, as in your with the Sky Wheel, your armor is set to your character, but you're not on foot, and you're going to be singled out. So probably Destiny's Call is the best option. With Demonic Wings, you can hide in a unit, so the no one-up rerollable armor is not bad. It's mostly that there's a lot of magic that ignores, and bolt throwers and stuff that ignore armor. But this guy, so I would say that generally it's better to run him with Demonic Wings in a unit. However, if you already have a Chosen Lord with the Demonic Wings, then I think he's quite an interesting guy. I would, however, switch him to Pride because minimize discipline is immense. on models that don't really take any wounds, it's just immense. It can change matchups, I find. So then we would end up with these two Chosen Lords. Mobility of them makes sure that we don't really have to worry about a Helma or anything. Then you get to the rest of your list. So we are settled on the Wizard added on Alchemy. With this guy, I don't really need another +1 to hit. Yeah, the question is, what are you going to put with this? So making him Pride makes me want to rely on his capabilities to take a charge as well. So then I don't really have to get like Forsworn or Damnation or anything. So we have 1,000 points left, both to fix the magic and the rest of the list. You can get like 2 more big combat units of 500 points each. 500 points, would that be enough? I mean, if you take Chosen Knights, then it's not enough, right? 527. So you could get away with that. You can do 2 more Chosen Knights. But then you don't really fix the magic phase. So in this case, you don't really need extra cover by getting more gigantic stuff. My feeling is generally that the gigantic models, if you go for them, then you have to just go all out and overwhelm your opponent, or not take any at all. Because if I now take like one for Feldrock Elder, then you know where Silver Spike's gonna shoot at and stuff like that. So basically now I have stuff that I can hide. I have just some rank and file units. You can get more Warrior Knights actually. You can get 5 units. also interesting. So what I haven't talked about yet is the option also to take some single ratchet ones, because I find that these guys are amazing at dealing with opposing chaff. So you just, to keep your own lines chaff free, basically, you just have these two guys. This could actually work. But then, well, magic-wise, we're still a bit away. Cheapest option probably is to make this a master and to give him then the roll of battle. No, I don't need it. Master. Yeah, like your magic is a bit restricted now. Is that bad or is that okay? It's really a warrior knight spam now, right? I think probably the list benefits from from just taking 2 warrior chariots instead. Now I'm 2 points over, so I'll get rid of a wretched one. But then again, all warrior knights not just better than warrior chariots. It's don't really know how to finish this one. These two guys. So you could also consider getting yet another guy that can run towards the opposing lines and wreak havoc. So one of my other favorite builds, I would say, is Barbarian Chief, but then he normally takes Strides Forged. I already used that on the Chosen Lord, so that is not available anymore. Essence of Mithril is an option, or a Black Steed. Just get Black Steed. 5+, 4+, 3+, 2+. So with Alchemist Alloy. This is not really gonna be it, is it? Basalt Infusion is quite expensive for a Barbarian Chief. Is there any other way to make a Chosen Lord a bit more mobile? So you can take a Black Steed as well. 115 points is so much. So if you take a Chimera, I don't want a Chimera because 470 points, this is not worth it. In my opinion, Chimeras can't even fly yet. So for normal Chimera, I wouldn't mind that it doesn't fly. If I have a Chosen Lord on top, I want it to fly. Karkadon is not worth it. You can get another Sky Wheel. 110 points left. Oof. Does Anthropic Aura make sense on a Sky Wheel? No, it doesn't. So armor wise, you can get Death Cheater. Huh. Death Cheater is still nice. You can get a Halberd and then Cleansing Light. Yes, Cleansing Light. And then I'm already way over the character points. So this doesn't really work, I think. It's also, I mean, 495 points for a model, in this case with 8 strength 5 attacks is worth it, I would say. But just for a model with like 5 attacks is not really worth it, I think. So then I would prefer to take something else. Let's go back one here. Or we don't have what has proven successful before is just a unit of 10 chosen with Pride. I would take a musician. 470 points is not that much, honestly. You can march 10 inches, which is nice. Then you can put the Wasteland Torch on them as well. Does that make sense? Yes, that does make sense, because with the other guys you already have the high enough strength. Like, I purposefully don't really take Flaming Standards everywhere, because I don't feel like I need a reroll to win everywhere. Here the 10 chosen, and then you just take the 2 Warrior Chariots. Probably. Then I'm 40 points over. you have to take something away. I would figure out what to take away, but I feel like warrior chariots are still just just solid pieces. Like I also played with chimeras in the past. I think in the end they're a bit overpriced. 200 points is not a lot, honestly, for a 4 hit point resilience 5 armor 3 piece, which is basically like a warrior chariot. 5 attacks, offensive 4, strength 5, basically like a warrior chariot. So warrior chariots are actually only better on the charge because of the impact hits, and they have 1 armor extra. I think I should consider going back to chimeras a bit more often, maybe. Because I have used them in the past as very heavy chaff, basically. 20-inch march is just immense, amazing. Gives you so much options, so much flexibility. And some people play them with wings. I have no clue at all why you would ever do that. So yeah, I'm always just tempted by chimeras. Yeah. So now we are actually at 4,500 points. This is also cool, to be honest. Because even if your opponent, like your chosen with pride, are mostly there to just take a charge, dish out some damage themselves because they still have like 30 attacks. They still have the 3 of armor save, still have parry, still can get massive wounds from Wizard Master on Alchemy with Word of Iron. So that works. This is basically a duplicate of the Warriors in core, but then cheaper and would minimize discipline. And then the chimeras, they counter charge quite nicely as well, with like 5 attacks per chimera. Yeah, this could also be quite interesting. I really like the Chosen Lord on the Sky Wheel. Like the positive aspect of this Chosen Lord for 630 is that you have Burning Portent. Basically, that's the positive aspect. The negative aspect is that if you lose him, you lose 830 points. So that's just too much. It's too much to be able to lose. So I mean, he is going to be in the Warriors. He is going to be really safe there. Not a lot of people are going to touch that brick in general, especially when he is in the Warriors. It's also a way to ensure that you can score objectives like hold the ground and stuff. That's going to be incredibly easy with this list. I think this might be. Am I going to say that this is the best one? I don't know. But it definitely looks like a strong contender. So what are the options that we skip now? So the Exalted Herald, because of reasons that I explained. Ancestor, because of reasons. Chosen Lord we have. Doom Lord, I also thought about the Doom Lord. So the Doom Lord can go on a Wasteland Beam off to create a very expensive piece. That is no need. There's no need for it to be so expensive. It doesn't really give any benefit. You can also not go on a Wasteland Beam off, then you're stuck with a model with March 12. I would like to put Ranger's Boots on it, it's not allowed. So then you're gonna, yeah, you start with a 355 point cost, which is just too much. You would have to run him solo, he would have to be like 100 points cheaper. To run him in a unit, you need to Forsworn. Then you add in the Forsworn as well. Then you want like at least 5 Forsworn, which is basically just borderline small. If you run only 5, you want Spiked Shield. So anyway, it's going to be a unit of 400 points, and then you're already 800 points in. It serves a purpose. It works sometimes quite well. It's not the kind of list I want to play. Now we have the Sorcerer. We used Barbarian Chief, so Barbarian chiefs, I would say they work in barbarians, and they also work with a shadow chaser or maybe on a chariot. Yet you had a time where it was equally expensive on a chariot as just a warrior knight chariot, basically. Nowadays, you still want to get them a light lance, I think. Or maybe not. I don't really care what you want. But yeah, you're at a comparable price. Might as well take a chariot. Warriors Fallen. Fallen. I every time I play with Fallen, I don't get them. So that's just my thing. Why Knights, Chariot, Chosen Knights, Chosen Chariot, Chosen Chariot. So the Chosen Chariot is still an interesting choice, I think, with Helmor. We could have actually put it in. So with Lust, I would put it in with the Helmor. Because then you can flee from someone, you can rally, you can teleport with Helmor. But then basically you have other options that can also just teleport. So I would say I think it worked at the time where you could teleport through all the portals that you had generated with your Helmor instead of just one unit within 6 inches of a Helmor. In this setup, I would play it with Sloth because then you also have the -1 to wound, so that alchemy magic doesn't have a very clear target, and then it becomes a bit pricey. For Sworn, yes. So for Sworn, basically it's a trade out, I would say, with the Chosen. For 2/3 of the cost, you have a unit that is guaranteed to stick around as long as your opponent doesn't do 12 wounds to you. Either in the shape of Forsworn or in the shape of Wretched Ones. But then on 2/3 of the cost, you also have a unit that doesn't do any damage at all itself. So it's a very specialized unit in that way. Probably the Chosen are just better, because they are also a combat unit themselves. Wretched Ones, really like single Wretched Ones, don't really care for a big unit. Battle Shrine, not my thing. Horseman, not my thing. Yeah. Forsaken one, that is still an interesting one. So Forsaken one in this list, I could imagine it replacing the Chosen basically, because it just breaks up the board in the sense that you are going to advance with it, your opponent has to reply to it, and then well, the rest of the game is going to be played. But it's a 3d6 random roll. You probably want to take Lord of the Damned. It can do some damage, it can maybe not do some damage. I think good players know how to work around the Forsaken one, and worse players don't really. So it might be very well that this is going to be a new iteration of a list. I'm going to try. Don't know if it's it also still has some MSU aspects. So what is still funny to me is that if you look at this list, it's actually not going to be that easy to get points very well. I mean, the Chimeras, I'm expecting Chimeras to die. So that's 400 points. Chosen Lord in the Warriors is only going to go out if I think it's worth it. He's just mostly going to zone, I expect, because people are just afraid. The other Chosen Lord, I might lose him, but still he has the Weird Stone, so he ignores the first hit, he has hard target, I can hide behind all of the Warrior Knights, I can hide behind the Chimeras. I think he's going to be fine most of the cases, and I can always fly away when I have one wound left. Wizard Master is going to be in his own bunker. Warriors are going to likely survive, the Chosen are likely going to stick around. The Warrior Knights. So I played a couple of games now, and I saw that. Well, what I didn't realize basically is that if you just have your champion left and you break from a combat, and your champion still has 2 hit points, then you just rally on a Discipline 9. It's just no worries. Nobody really wants to chase a single champion from a unit of Warrior Knights, because why would you? Yeah, so that's gonna be the video for this time. I hope you enjoyed my my long ramblings. Yeah, so first I am gonna try out this list. Looking through it now, so it's a bit stronger in the magic with the Wizard Apprentice and Occultism and the Rod of Battle. I want to test the Feldrock, see how much of an impact they really make, and I want to try the Forsworn. I think I'm gonna, in the end, go over to the other Chosen Lord, but we will see what's gonna happen. With that, I would like to thank you for watching, and I will see you then next time.